Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. We've got a lot to talk about on this Thursday, but before we get into it, I want to send a quick shout out to my longtime friend Charlton. He actually subscribed to the channel yesterday, and a little backstory on Charlton, besides the fact he has bad taste in college football teams. Him and I actually worked together back around, I think, 2010 or 2011. We actually worked together for a short period of time, so it was good to catch up with him on social media and know that he is still doing well and is having success at his current job. I still see him occasionally at my job every now and then, so I'm glad to know he is doing good. Charlton, even though you have bad taste in football teams, I'm so glad you subscribed to the channel, and I hope you enjoy today's video. Today we're going to be all over the place because there's so much to talk about. I want to start out by saying, for all you baseball fans out there, I'm not going to talk much about the wild card games because we're getting ready to talk about the division series matchups coming up. So we'll talk more about baseball probably on Saturday after all the division series have had their first game. So that'll be coming up here shortly. But first I want to say a big congratulations and happy retirement to Joe West. If you follow baseball, then you know Joe West has been a Major League Baseball umpire for 44 seasons. He started umpiring back in 1977. He is now the Major League Baseball record holder for most games umpired. He was going to retire last year, and he decided, I'm so close to the record, I might as well go ahead and get it and then retire. So 68 years old, he is hanging up the blue and calling it a career as far as Major League Baseball goes. But he also sings in a country music band, so I'm sure he's just going to start singing more. So he's not retiring, he's just retiring from baseball. And I give Joe West a lot of credit because baseball actually has a lot of rules that umpires are supposed to follow, but they just don't. So Joe West is one of the few, if not the only one, that actually follows the rules. So it makes him be hated by most of the players and most of the fans because he doesn't let coaches and players get by with stuff that most umpires would. But if you make it 44 years, you're doing something correct. To me, he is the best Major League Baseball umpire of all time. So I hope Joe West has a happy retirement. And as I said, we'll talk more about baseball coming up here in the next few days. In case you have not heard, there's a lot of NFL news right now. We had Patriots trading Stephon Gilmore to the Panthers for a draft pick. We also had the Cowboys releasing Jalen Smith, a linebacker who is only 26 years old. He's still in his prime, but he was released. There's a big rumor going around that he is going to sign with the Packers, but it's not official as of yet, but more than likely that's probably where he will end up going. Now, tonight, NFL kicks off week number 5 with a pretty good Thursday night matchup. And so far this year, all the Thursday night games have been close. Even last week's, when I thought the Jaguars would get destroyed, ended up being a pretty good game. So let's just hope tonight's game is the same way. We've got the Rams going up against the Seahawks. So it's two NFC West teams going head to head. And the Monday Night Football game was great. I thought the Chargers would win. They did, but the first half was just hideous. The Raiders would have been better off just putting a high school team out there. They looked terrible. But I didn't understand why you've got a $5.5 million stadium with a dome on it, but then you start the game late because there's lightning. Why wouldn't you just close the dome? That made zero sense to me, and I ain't going to lie. it actually made me mad, only because of the fact I didn't understand it. I understand a lightning delay when it's outside, but you're inside a dome and you have it open and there's lightning. So instead of closing it and starting the game, you leave it open and delay the game. That made absolutely zero sense to me, and I have yet to hear anybody try to make sense out of it and try to make me make sense out of it, because it makes zero sense to me, and I get perturbed at things that I don't understand, and I just do not understand that at all. I've already mentioned it one time. I'll go ahead and mention it again. This Saturday night, SWA Wrestling presents Fightmare number 16. Doors open at 6 o'clock. Bell time will be 7 o'clock. Tickets will be $10 at the door unless you want front row. If there's any front row left come Saturday night, they will be $15. We're having a trunk or treat at 6 o'clock as well, since this is our Halloween show. We're having 2 cage matches that I've already mentioned, and we're also going to have a ladder match for the New Blood Championship. So please come out and see us Saturday night at SWA Wrestling. And in case you have not heard, the NBA finally, after all these years, changed that stupid foul call that's no longer a foul. And the reason I bring it up is because they announced last year that it was going to happen, but I think a lot of people have forgotten about it because it's the off season. But then I believe it was Tuesday night when the NBA had a preseason game that featured the Warriors, and Stephen Curry tried to get the foul call, and it didn't work. And I'm so glad, because I've always thought that is the stupidest rule in all of basketball, where these players, mainly point guards, because they shoot free throws so well, and to me Stephen Curry is the most overrated shooter in basketball, but these players go up in the air and they'll fake like they're going to shoot the ball in the most unorthodox shooting formation you've ever seen, just to have the defender fall on them, and then they'll throw the ball up sideways or backwards or upside down and say, "Oh, I was shooting the ball," and they'll get to shoot free throws. Well, now you can't do that. Now, if it's obvious with your stance that you're not shooting and you get the defensive player in the air, it's not a foul, and that's the way it should be. I think it's going to change the game for Stephen Curry. It's going to change the game for James Harden, definitely, because James Harden, over half his points come from the free throw line, because all he does is turn some kind of funky angle and throw the ball up and say, "Oh, I was shooting." But now you can't do that. So I'm so glad the NBA has changed that rule, and I think there's going to be quite a few games this year that you're going to see some players get mad at officials because they're not going to get that call. But they announced last year that that was going away. We also have a college football game coming up tonight between Coastal Carolina and Arkansas State. Now, we know Coastal Carolina is a top 15 team. Their quarterback, in my opinion, is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Just nobody talks about him because it's Coastal Carolina. And, of course, Arkansas State's off to a 1-4 start. Their quarterback is the former quarterback at Florida State, James Blackman, who has transferred to Arkansas State, who, of course, is coached by former Central Michigan coach, former Cincinnati coach, and former Tennessee coach, Butch Jones. So a 1-4 start is not the start I'm sure he was trying to get when he took the job at Arkansas State. But they will turn it around, but it won't be tonight, because Coastal Carolina is really, really good. There's also another football game tonight from the collegiate level. We've got Houston going up against Tulane. Houston comes in at 4-1 on the season, and Tulane comes in at 1-4 on the season. And if you've been following the channel, you'll know back in the preseason when I was doing a lot of the predictions for over and unders on a lot of the college teams, I said that a lot of them were off in week 6. Now, we're not going to talk much about the games coming up on Saturday. We'll talk more about that in tomorrow's video when we talk about the Friday night games and the Saturday games. But I did hear, I think it was on Tuesday, that this Saturday is the lightest schedule of the year as far as games being played. Now, there's still going to be games on all day long, but there's pretty much almost 3 to 4 teams in every conference that's off this Saturday. So when I was saying that back in the preseason, it's because I was just noticing it when I was picking teams to do an over-under on, and it seemed like almost half the teams I picked were off in week 6. So I guess I wasn't crazy. This is the lightest scheduled day of the year for the college games. But like I said, we'll talk more about the Saturday games in tomorrow's video when we also talk about the Friday games. But tonight we do have Coastal Carolina and Arkansas State, and we do have Houston going up against Tulane. If you have any thoughts on Stephon Gilmore being traded or Jalen Smith being released or the new NBA, I guess you want to call it foul, non-foul rule change, because everybody knows when these players are shooting sideways and backwards that they're not in a shooting motion. They were just doing that to get free throws. I'm so glad that's gone away now. Hopefully it makes the game go by a little bit faster, because some of these players that were doing that were getting to shoot 30 free throws a game. Well, now they're probably going to shoot, 10 to 12 free throws a game. So hopefully with less fouls, it'll make the game go by a little bit faster, because the NBA season starts in a little bit less than 2 weeks now that it's Thursday. So it comes up, I believe it's on Wednesday night, October the 20th, I believe, is the first NBA game of the season. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. My wife wanted chapstick, and I accidentally handed her a glue stick, and she still isn't speaking to me. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.